Most doctors are trained to focus on one thing when it comes to your heart: pills, statins, blood thinners, prescriptions. That's usually where the conversation begins and ends. But research suggests certain everyday foods may be doing something for your arteries that medication alone was never designed to do. Before we go further, an important disclaimer. Nothing here suggests stopping prescribed medication. If you're on a statin, blood thinner, or any heart medication, please keep following your doctor's guidance closely. Cardiovascular disease remains the #1 cause of death worldwide. And if you're over 60, you've likely heard you have some plaque buildup from your own doctor, or you know someone close to you who has. It's mentioned so casually it almost sounds like a normal part of aging. But have you ever asked what plaque actually is, chemically speaking, and why it keeps forming even in people doing everything right according to their lab results? Here's a question that might surprise you. If a medication can cut your LDL by more than half, shouldn't your arteries get dramatically cleaner? Logically, it seems like it should. Yet clinical imaging tells a very different story. Lab numbers improve significantly, while the actual plaque barely shifts at all. So what's really happening inside there? And if cholesterol numbers alone aren't the full picture, then what exactly is going on? That's precisely what we're digging into today. We'll cover why oxidized cholesterol and chronic inflammation, not cholesterol levels alone, appear to drive arterial disease forward. Then we'll examine 2 natural substances studied for their direct effects on plaque structure, followed by 6 foods offering daily protective value. If your heart health matters to you, or you're caring for someone dealing with this exact issue, stay with us until the very end. Understanding plaque, why it's more than just clogged pipes. Before jumping into solutions, it's worth taking a moment to really understand what we're up against. A lot of people picture arterial plaque the way they'd picture a clogged kitchen drain, some kind of sludge that simply accumulates over time. But the biological reality is far more complex, and understanding it changes how you think about prevention and reversal. Plaque development actually behaves more like a repeated injury and repair cycle gone wrong. When LDL cholesterol becomes oxidized, meaning it's been damaged by unstable molecules known as free radicals, your body's immune system reacts as though it's spotted a foreign threat. Immune cells swarm the area, attempt to absorb and neutralize the damaged cholesterol, and in doing so, many of them become trapped within the artery wall itself. Over years, this repeated process builds up a fatty, inflamed mass that hardens and gradually narrows the blood vessel from the inside. That buildup is what we call plaque. This single fact explains something that confuses a lot of people. How can someone have good cholesterol numbers on paper and still develop significant arterial blockages? If the LDL circulating in their bloodstream is oxidized, and if low-grade inflammation is still active in the background, plaque can continue forming and expanding regardless of what the total cholesterol count says. In other words, oxidation and inflammation, not raw cholesterol quantity, appear to be the real engines driving this disease forward. That distinction is especially important for older adults, since inflammation tends to become more chronic and persistent as we age. This is also exactly where standard pharmaceutical treatment runs into its limits. High-dose statins, along with newer medications like PCSK9 inhibitors, are genuinely impressive at lowering LDL cholesterol. Some can reduce it by as much as 60%. But when researchers use imaging technology to actually measure the physical thickness of plaque before and after these treatments, the change is remarkably small, often somewhere in the range of just 0.015 to 0.04 millimeters. To put that in perspective, these medications are excellent at putting the disease into what you might call neutral gear, halting its progression, but they were never really built to shrink plaque that's already there. That's a meaningful distinction, and one that doesn't always get explained clearly during a routine appointment. So, if medication mainly stops things from getting worse, rather than actively reversing existing damage, what can go to work on the plaque itself? That question is exactly where 2 specific natural compounds enter the conversation, and the research behind them deserves a closer look. The 2 heavy hitters, pomegranate juice and nattokinase. Most nutrition research tests fairly ordinary, everyday portions of food, and those modest amounts often aren't concentrated enough to produce dramatic results. But a smaller collection of clinical trials has used much higher, more targeted doses of specific compounds, and the outcomes from that research are genuinely striking. Some studies report plaque reductions somewhere between 17 and 36% over the course of a single year, numbers that far exceed what pharmaceuticals alone typically achieve on their own. Two particular natural substances keep showing up again and again in this body of research, and interestingly, they work through two entirely different mechanisms. That difference in approach may be exactly why pairing them together appears to be so effective. Pomegranate juice, nature's anti-rust treatment. Picture oxidized LDL cholesterol as a piece of metal that's beginning to rust. Rust doesn't stay contained, it spreads, weakens whatever it touches, and invites further deterioration over time. Pomegranate juice seems to function similarly to an anti-rust coating, stepping in to neutralize that oxidative damage before it can spiral further. In human studies, a relatively small daily amount, around 50 milliliters, which is roughly the size of a shot glass, has been associated with a dramatic drop in LDL oxidation, in some research reaching as high as a 90% reduction. That's a remarkable number, particularly when you consider it doesn't necessarily change someone's total cholesterol count at all. Here's the part that tends to surprise people. Pomegranate juice doesn't appear to significantly raise HDL, the so-called good cholesterol, in terms of raw numbers. Instead, research suggests it upgrades the functional quality of the HDL a person already has, effectively transforming it into a more efficient transport system, one that's better equipped to pull cholesterol out of existing plaque and carry it safely away from the artery walls. So even if your cholesterol panel looks unchanged, the actual working capacity of your HDL may be quietly improving behind the scenes. Nattokinase, the enzyme that cuts plaque scaffolding. If pomegranate juice acts like an anti-rust treatment, nattokinase plays a completely different role. Think of it as a small pair of scissors, snipping away at the internal framework that holds plaque together. Nattokinase is an enzyme derived from fermented soybeans, traditionally associated with a fermented dish long popular in Japan. What makes it particularly interesting for arterial health is its effect on a protein called fibrin. Fibrin functions like a structural net, giving plaque its shape and holding it firmly in place. Nattokinase works by directly breaking down that fibrin mesh, and once the scaffolding collapses, the cholesterol that had been trapped inside is finally free to be cleared away by the body's natural processes. Here's an important nuance. Simply eating fermented soy foods in ordinary quantities likely won't provide enough fibrin-dissolving activity to make a meaningful difference. Researchers estimate that typical food-based portions deliver something around 2,000 fibrinogen units, a dose generally considered too low to trigger real reversal. Genuine change appears to require concentrated nattokinase supplementation, usually starting somewhere around 6,000 units and increasing from there. One large-scale clinical trial conducted in China reportedly used doses as high as 10,800 fibrinogen units daily, and researchers noted no significant side effects even at that intensive level. Why combining them appears to work so well. This pairing has been generating attention because pomegranate juice and nattokinase don't overlap in function, they divide the labor between them. One works to prevent oxidative damage and enhances the efficiency of your HDL's cleanup abilities. The other physically dismantles the structural scaffolding holding plaque together. Used together under the right conditions, they seem to attack the problem from two distinct angles simultaneously. There's even a documented personal case of someone combining daily pomegranate juice with high-dose nattokinase supplementation, who reportedly saw a 20 to 25% carotid artery blockage, essentially resolve within about 3 months. That's an individual account rather than a guaranteed outcome for everyone, but it aligns with what the broader research on these two substances suggests may be biologically achievable. It's worth repeating, before adding a concentrated supplement like nattokinase into your routine, particularly if you're already taking blood thinners or other heart medications. A conversation with your physician is essential, since fibrin-dissolving compounds can potentially interact with other treatments you may be on. 6 everyday foods that support long-term arterial protection. Beyond these 2 standout ingredients, there's a broader category of foods that consistently appear throughout heart health research. Think of these as your daily maintenance team, not miracle solutions on their own, but steady, reliable contributors to an internal environment, with lower inflammation and less oxidative stress. Leafy greens, like spinach, kale, and Swiss chard, are rich in nitrates and antioxidants, and research suggests these compounds may help blood vessels relax more effectively, supporting smoother, healthier blood flow throughout the body. Fatty fish, including salmon, sardines, and mackerel, provide omega-3 fatty acids that have been studied extensively for their potential to reduce inflammation and support the healthy function of blood vessel walls. Extra virgin olive oil, a staple of Mediterranean-style eating patterns that have been researched for decades, is rich in monounsaturated fats and antioxidant compounds believed to help shield LDL cholesterol from oxidative damage. Garlic has long carried a reputation in both traditional remedies and modern nutritional science for containing compounds that may help relax blood vessels modestly while also reducing oxidative stress in the body. Tomatoes are notably rich in lycopene, a compound that's been studied for its potential antioxidant effects on cholesterol, as well as its broader contributions to cardiovascular protection. Berries, blueberries, raspberries, and strawberries among them are loaded with polyphenols, plant compounds that researchers believe help the body fight back against the oxidative stress that fuels plaque formation. None of these 6 foods will produce results as dramatic as the high-dose pomegranate and nattokinase pairing discussed earlier, but when incorporated consistently into your everyday meals, they help build a steady foundation that supports everything else you're doing for your cardiovascular health. Think of them less as a quick fix and more as insurance, the kind that quietly pays off over years rather than days. Common missteps that can quietly stall your progress. Even with the right foods and supplements in your corner, a handful of common mistakes can slow down or completely undo your progress if you're not paying attention. One frequent misstep is treating a favorable LDL number as automatic proof that your arteries are clear. As we discussed earlier, the raw quantity of LDL is only one piece of a much larger puzzle: oxidation status and ongoing inflammation matter just as much, arguably even more. It's entirely possible to have a great-looking lipid panel and still be quietly accumulating plaque. Another common error is assuming that statins alone will actively reverse blockages that already exist. These medications are genuinely valuable for stabilizing the disease and preventing further progression, but as the imaging research shows, they simply weren't designed to meaningfully shrink plaque that's already formed. Relying on them for reversal alone often leads to disappointment down the road. A third mistake worth avoiding is leaning entirely on supplements while neglecting the broader lifestyle picture. Even the most promising natural compounds can't outpace a daily routine that continues fueling inflammation and putting stress on the arteries. Supplements are meant to support the process, not serve as a replacement for it, and treating them as a substitute for real lifestyle change tends to backfire over time. Tying it all together, the lifestyle habits that make everything work. This is a piece that's often overlooked, yet it may be just as important as anything we've covered so far. No juice, supplement, or superfood functions in complete isolation. Your daily habits shape the internal environment in which all of this either thrives or falls flat. Regular movement, even something as simple as a brisk 20 to 30-minute walk each day, has been shown in research to support healthy circulation and help regulate blood pressure, both of which have a direct impact on arterial health over time. It's one of the simplest, most accessible habits available to older adults, regardless of fitness level. Strength training deserves a place here too. Building and preserving muscle mass, especially as we age, supports overall metabolic function and has been associated with improved cardiovascular markers, making resistance exercise a genuinely worthwhile addition even later in life. You don't need a gym membership. Resistance bands or body weight movements at home can go a long way. Eliminating tobacco use entirely remains one of the most thoroughly documented ways to reduce oxidative damage and arterial inflammation, and quitting at any age has measurable, meaningful benefits for long-term heart health, no matter how long someone has smoked. Managing stress is another piece that shouldn't be underestimated. Chronic stress keeps the body locked in a low-grade inflammatory state, and a growing body of research points to stress management, whether through mindfulness practices, meaningful hobbies, social connection, or simply prioritizing quality sleep as a genuinely important factor in cardiovascular protection. When you combine these daily habits with the dietary strategies discussed earlier, you're essentially attacking the disease from several directions, simultaneously reducing the formation of new plaque, improving how efficiently cholesterol gets transported out of the body, and breaking down the structural framework holding existing blockages together. Heart disease may hold the unfortunate title of the world's leading cause of death, but the research discussed throughout this video suggests that it doesn't have to be a one-way road. Reversing, or at the very least significantly improving arterial health, appears to be genuinely achievable for many people through a thoughtful combination of targeted nutrition, smart supplementation, and consistent daily habits. It absolutely requires patience and discipline, often unfolding gradually over a stretch of 1 to 5 years, but understanding the underlying biology behind why these strategies work can make the entire journey feel far less overwhelming and far more within your control. If you're over 60, this stage of life is exactly when these kinds of choices carry the most weight and the greatest potential payoff. The encouraging truth is that it's genuinely never too late to give your arteries better tools to work with. And as always, any adjustments to your supplement routine, especially something as potent as high-dose Nattokinase, should be discussed thoroughly with your cardiologist first, particularly if you're already managing existing heart disease or taking blood-thinning medications. If this video gave you a fresh way of thinking about your heart health, do me a favor and tap that like button. It genuinely helps this information reach more people who could benefit from it. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now, because there's plenty more practical, research-backed health content on the way. Share this video with a parent, spouse, or friend who might need to hear this today. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I'll see you in the next one.